Welcome to MarcusG.TV. I'm Chef Marcus Guiliano.
And Jamie.
And I am a chef on a mission.
Yes, you are.
Thus, chefonamission.com. But really some good news is we are in our new office, or I'm in my desk in my new office.
I'm not yet.
You will be, hopefully this week. On the other side over there is going to be your desk. Really an awesome office we have set up here. I've got my big computer over there. I have a fully cleaned off desk, which I think this is probably the first time you've ever seen me with a clean desk. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's because you haven't been in here very long.
I plan on keeping this desk cleared.
Oh, good.
Okay, I plan on getting work done on this desk.
Perfect.
I was here this morning at 6 o'clock.
Yeah?
Felt good.
At this desk?
No, in the bar, doing
okay.
work.
Okay.
At the bar. So I felt really good to be up that early. I know when you come here early and get stuff done at 5:30.
I got so much stuff done today.
Yeah.
And I was here right after you.
I think that's one of the keys to being successful is being able to get into your space and just flow creatively without any interruptions. But we're talking about genetically modified corn today.
Yes, we are.
I have some really bad news here. Some really bad news. I like Mexican food. I like Mexican restaurants. I really like corn. Corn is one of my favorite things. I eat a lot of corn. But here's an article from Mexico. What is this called?
Mexico News Daily.
MexicoNewsDaily.com. And this is September 2017. This is brand new news, even though it's not shocking to me. This might be shocking to some people. And what does the article say, Jimmy?
Genetically modified corn found in over 90% of tortillas in Mexico. UNAM research team also found the herbicide glyphosate.
Glyphosate, which is Roundup.
So as you go into the article, a team of researchers has been surprised by the discovery that slightly over 90% of tortillas sold in Mexico contain traces of genetically modified corn.
Now this is a major blow for Mexico, because Mexico is the birthplace of corn. That's where they would brag for years, well, we still have the original strain of corn, we still have organic corn, we still have the corn from Oaxaca, which is southern Mexico. We still have real corn. Folks, genetically modified crops cross-contaminate like crazy. Even in countries where they're not allowed to have genetically modified crops, there still could be genetically modified crops. For example, we never approved genetically modified wheat. It was only grown on a couple plots, and I think in Oregon or Washington or something as a test. We never approved it, and it's out there. This was years ago this was done, and there's traces of genetically modified wheat in a certain part of our wheat supply here in the U.S. So this stuff, it literally just spreads like weeds. And genetically modified crops have certain things in them that can make them a super strain and make them really resistant like a super weed, where it might be impossible to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. For example, Roundup, a Roundup Ready crop is a crop you can spray Roundup on and it's not going to kill the crop. So imagine now you're spraying these crops down, or these plants are actually moving to other parts where they're not welcome or not wanted, and now these other farmers can't even kill it by using Roundup or anything. So even if Monsanto said we found, let's say they admitted or they were court ordered that they have to kill all the genetically modified corn in America, they couldn't do it. You couldn't just spray Roundup on it and kill it. It's impossible to, because it thrives. That's what it does. It's designed to thrive when you put Roundup on it.
Overall, the study by the National Anonymous University of Mexico found that 82% of all corn products, such as tostadas, flour, cereals, and snacks, contain some level of genetically modified sequences.
This is in Mexico, by the way, folks. In the U.S., I'm sure this is far worse. I'm sure.
The researchers also found the herbicide glyphosate. How do you say it?
Glyphosate. Glyphosate.
In approximately 27.7% of the samples that tested positive for transgenic corn.
So just because a corn is Roundup Ready doesn't mean they're spraying Roundup on it. And it could be another type. It could be BT corn. It could be a different type of genetically modified corn. But a lot of times if you're growing Roundup crops, just using Roundup to control all the weeds.
In a paper published in August by the journal Archaeologic Agroecology and Sustainable Food Systems, the researchers said the traces of genetically modified genes found in corn products sold in Mexican stores and markets have their origin in plants that have been manipulated mainly in laboratories located in the United States.
That's what I was talking about. The stuff spreads like weeds. It get out there and gets in the food supply. And even if it's not your neighbor doing it, it could be somebody in another country, another state, 200 miles away, 500 miles away, 1,000 miles away.
Most commercially available corn in the U.S. has been genetically modified to tolerate glyphosate, the world's most common herbicide, and the active ingredient in Roundup made by Monsanto.
I just heard a country is now phasing glyphosate out. They're phasing it out in 5 years. And I was just listening to something on Gary Null today, I think this morning, how more and more studies are actually saying, because Monsanto says glyphosate and Roundup is harmless. And a while ago, a local landscaper told us, oh, it's just an amino acid. You can spray it anywhere you want. And wrong. There's a lot of severe consequences, even for young males, impotence, non-fertility problems. There's lots of links that Monsanto keeps denying. Now, Monsanto's a company that brought us Agent Orange and other deadly toxic chemicals. So Monsanto's not in the business of creating earth-friendly, organic, environmentally harmonious products.
Although a review by the World Health Organization suggested glyphosate may have some carcinogenic potential, the current consensus amongst the world's regulatory agencies is that it is safe for consumption. The WHO's review concluded last year that the glyphosate is unlikely to pose a carcinogenic risk to humans from exposure through the diet.
I'm going to look up the stuff that Gary Null was talking about, and he has a very well-respected researcher that has some really hard science and saying this stuff is totally not good for you whatsoever. Of course, he's an independent. Somebody emailed Gary Null on his show and said, oh, here's a guy who's pro this, pro GMO, pro glyphosate, and here's his credentials and this and that, and his stuff is very, very well respected. Gary in his show was saying he looked at the guy and did some research and he goes, the guy's funded by Monsanto. The guy has his hands. He's getting money from the genetically modified companies. Of course he's going to say that.
Right.
So a lot of times, people, you have to really understand that the stuff you're reading, you have to really vet the person who is putting it up there, because there's a lot of people that are paid to do a certain type of study to prove something, and not. It's like when they do studies for vaccinations. If the child has an adverse effect, they remove the child from the study, because the study is not there to prove that it causes an adverse effect. It's there to prove that it produces antibodies for whatever germ they're putting in your body. So if somebody produces a side effect, they're not valid for the study because they totally eliminate that group. It's the same thing with all these studies. If they're getting something they don't want, it's not there to prove that, so they eliminate that. They're only focused on proving something positive for their agenda, for their finances, for their company.
The UNAM team also tested handmade tortillas made using more artisanal processes and homegrown corn varieties. GM content in those tortillas had a significantly lower frequency when compared to commercial products. Handmade tortillas also had zero glyphosate content, the researchers found. All of their samples were tested for transgene presence in UNAM laboratories, and the results certified by a German laboratory. This last facility also tested the samples of glyphosate content. The head researcher said the team was surprised to find genetically modified corn in our tortillas and other corn products. Elena Alvarez Boyarosis called the results striking because cultivation of genetically modified corn in open fields is not allowed in Mexico due to long and ongoing legal action and temporary ban. She did not mention what risks, if any, the public might be facing given the research results.
So they're not allowed by the government to grow
genetically modified.
And the stuff is there. The stuff is absolutely there.
She did say that Mexico should recover its food sovereignty, and warned that Mexicans have fewer GM-free corn options.
Like I said before, it's probably worse than America.
Mexicans eat an estimated half a kilogram per day of tortillas and other corn-based products.
That's 1.1 pound of corn a day. So for those people that say no carbs, no carbs, no carbs, Mexicans eat over a pound of corn a day. Okay? And there's a lot of very fit Mexicans out there. The Mexican society in general is a pretty much lean, fit society. Just like Asians who eat a lot of rice are typically a slender society.
Alvarez Bulla told the UNAM news service DGCS that in 2016, the country produced 25.7 million tons of corn, 12.3 million of which were sold for human consumption. 4.2 million were grown by subsistence farmers. 4.4 million were fed to animals, and 1.5 million tons were exported. She also believes that Mexico produces enough corn for human consumption, native and hybrid and transgene free. The 10 million tons of corn Mexico imports from the United States every year should be used only to feed livestock or as highly processed industrial consumables, and no longer for human consumption, much less if it is contaminated with glyphosate, said the researcher. Alvarez Bulla recommended more support for substance and ecological farming of highly nutritional native and hybrid varieties of corn to cover the country's needs.
I mean, this is exactly where all the people that are against genetically modified crops are saying that this is going to totally take over our environment. And there are no long-term studies, folks. Monsanto, these companies put out studies that are 12 months, 18 months. These short-term studies, there's no 10, 15-year study on our health, the health of the environment. There's a lot of people that have noticed things that have happened on their farms, like that Danish pork farmer who said that his pigs were dying much sooner, they were getting sicker. Milk farmers, when they put bovine growth hormone into their dairy cattle, say they can't milk the cattle for 10 or 15 years, they can only milk them for 5 years, it cuts their life down. They produce more milk in the beginning, but there's also downfalls like more lacerations, more infections, they need more antibiotics.
Right.
People say, oh, this genetically modified stuff is so good for us and we need it. There really are no truly independent studies saying that, hey, this is the way to lead our society. Did you know that in Russia, over 90% of the Russian population eats from small farms, homegrown farms of less than 2 acres?
Interesting.
If Russia with that size population can do it,
so could we.
Why can't we do it? But Americans, part of the problem is we're used to walking in and getting frozen foods, and we're not used to cooking. If you had a choice of going to the store to buy real foods to cook, you'd have more real foods in our diet. But these companies, these huge, massive companies, I went to Restaurant Depot this morning to pick up a couple things, and I always look at the stuff that we don't buy there. There's a lot of stuff we don't. There's only a few things that we can buy there, and I'm just looking at like pancake mix. I'm looking at crackers, breadcrumbs. I took a picture of an ingredient of breadcrumbs. The list was atrocious of ingredients in it.
All you need is bread.
Our breadcrumbs are whole wheat flour, the yeast, the water that's used to make the bread, and that's it. But there's 30, 40 ingredients, everything from corn syrup solids to cottonseed, shortenings. There's all these lists of ingredients of it, and I'm like, but this is what the standard people are getting when they go eat in a restaurant, when they go to a store to buy pre-breaded chicken nuggets. So McDonald's touted, oh, we have better quality chicken in our chicken nuggets, but what's the breading made of? Right? What are the chickens being fed? They're being fed GMO products. They might say, oh, it's 100% white meat and they're maybe chemical free, but look at the breadcrumbs, look at the process, look at the fat that they're frying the chicken nuggets in, loaded with crap. So, do you have any questions on this article?
No, it's a great article.
Sad article.
It is sad.
Very sad article.
But it's a good article to put out there to people.
So now some people are going to say that genetically modified foods have been doing them for years, 100 years, and that there's no reason not to move forward because we've been doing this. And get a grip, Marcus. Get a grip. We're going to make another video to follow up this video on a comment from this article, and we're going to break down that as well. Okay. I'm Chef Marcus Guiliano. Thanks for watching.
And I'm Jamie.
If you like our videos, please hit like, subscribe,
pass it on,
and thanks for watching.